Welcome to the Flag Stays Down podcast. Happy Halloween or early Halloween from all of us here. You got me, Andy. You got Parker. You got Matt. Parker, how you doing on this Sunday evening?
It's good, man. We hosted family this weekend, so I had my older brother, his wife, and two kids. They came in town on Thursday, and we had them all weekend. So it was great. We went up to Rocky Mountain National Park, which was our first time going there, and did a little bit of hiking, a little bit of sightseeing, and we got our first snow of the year. So I know Collins is shaking his head. It's here, boys. But what's cool is like it's supposed to get to like 65 degrees like by Wednesday. So this snow will melt. But it was cool. It was pretty to see the snowfall. We got like 4 or 5 inches by us, and then a lot in the mountains, which I'm learning is the case right where I'm an hour from the mountains or 45, 50 minutes from the mountains, and their weather patterns are a lot different than ours. So it's one of the quirks I'm learning about Colorado. But I mean, I love when like little kids are around, man, because like I pull out a deck of cards and can do like a couple like really dumb magic tricks, and they're just like fucking wowed by it. It's super awesome. And I dumb dad jokes. Like I told them that I could crack my nose and did one of those, right? And like it's just funny stuff like that that just riles them up, and they have a ball with it. And it's good youthful energy. We went bowling today. Like, when was the last time we went bowling? It's just it's stuff you don't do every day, right? So it's good vibes. It's good stuff all around. So yeah, overall, a pretty great weekend. Matt, how are you doing, man?
I'm hanging in there, a little under the weather. Little man had his first fever, so that was good to deal with. Everything's good with him. Got up to just under 102, and then it broke in the middle of the night. So all was good. Just kind of shoulder shrugged it. Not a big deal. But now my wife and I are paying the consequences, so we're hanging in there. We did some trick-or-treating last night with some friends of ours. So that was a lot of fun. And then today just had our neighborhoods. So just outside, I took the opportunity to start hanging Christmas lights because I really don't get that opportunity too much. So started doing that. But yeah, other than that, we're doing good. It's Sunday night, so happy to be here. Collins, how are you?
As is becoming a tradition on this pod, the Sunday of Halloween, I'm feeling good. We'll say a lot of day drinking during multiple trick or treats today. We had the local one here. Matt, as you mentioned, in Milwaukee. Headed out to my son's cousin's house for evening trick or treat. Little throwback to college. I showed Parker, but Matt got the 90 the little bottles of 99s, which are fantastic. That's what I'll be drinking on the pod tonight. But yeah, no, we didn't have a whole lot of adult trick or treaters at our house tonight, so I've got a whole bunch of these left over. So it's a good night. I'll put it that way. Which is a stark contrast to waking up early and watching the shit show that was Chelsea Football Club yesterday. Am I right? So Chelsea do drop at home 2-0 to Brentford. We it wasn't really a debate, but just kind of back and forth about about the match pre-pod. 2-0, but yeah, it was kind of 1-0. Like it was just lost 3 points anyways. The open net goal for the second was very hockey-esque, NHL-esque, Colorado Avalanche, we'll say. But there's a lot to talk about in this one, outside of the Brentford goals, or our lack of goals, I guess you could say. The first one starts, before the match even started. You wake up and you check the lineup. God, Parker, you had to wake up at what, 4:30 to check the lineup?
I was not up at 4:30 to check the lineup. I was up at 5:20.
There you go.
For a 5:30 game. And I walked downstairs and threw it on, and there we are.
Touche. But two big pieces missing and that was Enzo Fernandez and Mihajlo Mudryk, both excluded from the squad. And obviously hindsight is 2020, and the word is that they each individually picked up small little knocks. Take that for what it's worth, but very clear, at least to me, very clearly, it looks like we missed those players more than what a lot of Chelsea fans think we would miss those two. Did it come down to those two? Are those two as important as what I'm thinking?
As of right now, yes. Again, this is one of the things that we've been talking about, like what is our best squad? We have people coming back, things like that. I think when they're in good form, like they have been, their impact is even greater when they're not on the pitch. Especially Mudryk, we talked about him a lot. Like he's coming into his own. He's playing with a lot of confidence, and then he picks up a knock and he's not able to play. Enzo, he picked up a knock. He's been traveling, everything. So he's not able to be fit for the match. You start to see those things that don't seem like big issues. You start to see them kind of rear their ugly head in a match like this. Now, not to say that we don't have capable people to fill in those spots, but when Enzo is like your guy that's always on the team sheet, pretty much number one on the team sheet, it's a loss. And I don't think anybody really understood like how big of a loss that would be, but it was definitely felt. And Mudryk, with again the way that he's been playing, it gives Chelsea something extra that I think that we don't have really with anybody else. So seeing him not be able to be fit is tough.
Yeah, man. What this tells me, and it's tough it's a tough pill to swallow, but what this tells me is that our team isn't as deep as I thought they were. I thought the past, I don't know, 18 months, we've signed a lot of players, a lot of good players and a lot of big name players and expensive players. And it feels like when one or two of them aren't there, like we should be able to field a team that can compete with a Brentford. But I hope they're not that important, right? I hope we can put together a squad that has a little bit more life than what we showed against Brentford. I think Raheem Sterling has been in form, so he could have done a lot more. Cole Palmer's been in form. He could have done a lot more. Noni Madueke got his first start, I believe, this year. And he actually looked good, especially the first 20, 25 minutes. I thought he was one of our best players. And, we ran out of gas real quick, it seemed. And we stopped creating chances. We stopped shooting. I heard a commentator say it's been, a quarter of an hour since Chelsea's last shot. Just things like that kind of started to build up. And one of the things that I've started to notice a lot more about our games and our team is when we don't score in the first half, when it's 0-0 at half, it's nerves the second half, because you don't know which way the game is going to go. We could easily win, we could easily draw, we could easily lose. There's no, I don't want to say no rhyme or reason, but there's nothing that I can look at that tells me how the team is going to kind of come back and bounce back from a sort of a dead first half. And we came out in the second half and looked pretty piss poor, to be honest. The second half was a lot worse than the first. So I hope that Enzo isn't that important to our team that we can't not play him, because I think he needs rest every so often. But the recency bias of what I just saw tells me that tells me that he does make our team hum. He does help create things. He helps turn defense into offense. He helps spray balls out long accurately. That helps open things up. We've said this for a long time. We've been talking about it for a long time. And now that we missed it, it's like you said, Matt, it becomes sort of ever apparent.
Yeah. I agree with you, Parker, that, and Enzo is going to need his breaks every once in a while. I mean, he played just about every minute of every single game since he signed. But I think the stability in that middle three, at least until you have Lavia back from injury, Gallagher, Caicedo, Enzo, I think is a pretty stable, crucial mid three. And you had to change that a little bit today or yesterday. But I think the more drastic thing we were missing was Mudryk. And just like It's Always Sunny, Charlie, wild card bitches, right? Mudryk is that wild card. I don't think he understands that he's the wild card. I don't think he knows what wild card is, but he's the guy that offers up that different look. You know what you're going to get out of Raz, right? And defenders know what they're going to see out of Raz. Same with Palmer to an extent, with how new he is to the squad and all that. I think you still know what you're going to see out of him. So down either flank, you need somebody like Mudryk, who you just, at any given point, you have no idea what the fuck you're looking at. So I think he was the bigger loss to me out of the two. Though we certainly did miss Enzo in this one, right? Because we did not dominate the midfield, even though we dominated possession and all that. I don't think we dominated the midfield at all with just Caicedo and Gallagher. So yeah, it's tough, and these are the things we kind of have to go through when we have a young squad and an experienced squad, and you got to miss people due to injury and knocks and fatigue and all that. But I think it reinforces, God, we need Enzo out there. We need Lavia to come back, and we need that different look in attack like Mudryk.
Just gonna throw another name into that list, Collins. Nkunku would be nice to give a different look as well, because I feel like Nkunku is Cole Palmer, but proven. Like he's been doing it for a few years. Don't get me wrong, I'm not shitting on Cole Palmer. It's a compliment to him to kind of be in the same sentence as him. But Christopher Nkunku is, I think he can still be that guy as well and give us a different look and give us different options.
So Palmer did play in Nkunku's position, I guess you could call it, in that number 10, sitting behind Nico. We've now seen Palmer in multiple positions. We've seen him as that 10. We've seen him out on the right wing. We've seen him, kind of floating as a false 9. What is Cole Palmer's best position in this squad?
So my thing would be, does he have a best position? Because even one thing I've noticed is even when he does play on the right, he is all over the place as far as like in the middle of the pitch, like creating. So I don't necessarily know that he's like kind of centrally locked. He's more like kind of free flowing. To me, like very Aiden Hazard-esque in the sense of he'll come back, get the ball, like where our defensive mids would be. He'll come back and get that ball to help relieve pressure. And then he just kind of floats around, looks for the open spaces, kind of goes wherever he needs to go. I personally like him positioned on the right, but as the game goes on, he floats more and more. So I don't really know that he has a quote unquote designated position out there on the pitch.
Yeah, I Matt, like you said, he floats a lot. So it is hard to tell, but I do like him on that right side. Just like I said with Mudryk, where it gives a different look than what you're used to. Palmer on that right gives a different look than what opposing teams are used to, especially out of Chelsea down that right side. You look at Madueke, we've had Pulisic play on that right wing. And it's just kind of dribble at you kind of players. Even when we had Sterling playing on the right, it was, hey, we're going to go at you. Palmer is not afraid to pull back and then chip that ball to the far post, or put a ball over the top into the middle of the box. Palmer gives you that change up on the right. Now centrally, I thought in the first half, absolutely, he was our man of the match. He was doing that through the middle, but then we saw that fade as the match went on. And so I'm not sure that, either Brentford made an adjustment or we did not, or, Palmer did not make an adjustment. Chelsea did not make an adjustment. I'm not sure what it is. But But just looking at what we've seen so far this year, I think putting him on the right has been the stronger position for him.
I'm a little torn because he didn't have his best game yesterday. But I think like as I think about what his strengths are, especially where he could fit into our team, who else could play on the right wing and who else could play on the left wing for us. I'm going to say number 10 as his best position. I think tight creative spaces. I can't remember. I was trying to look it up quick. I can't remember the assist that he had and I think it was called off. Actually, it wasn't given assist where that ball was where he kind of like flicked it into space. I think tight creative spaces are where he's going to be kind of unlocked. And I think the number 10 will suit that well. Collins, you mentioned those little chip balls in. He's going to be able to like get the ball and just kind of float balls to the back post and let runners kind of come in on it. I hear you, and you said like, it could have been Brentford making an adjustment or he kind of fell off. I think our team fell off as a whole, and we did not play a great second half. And there wasn't a lot of energy in our attack to begin. So I think, I'm going to write this off as a bit of an anomaly and say over a stretch of matches, I think 10 could be his best position for us, at least until Christopher Nkunku comes back.
So what is your guys' ideal front three? Throughout the season, we've typically played a front three. It can change with Poach, but Matt, you and I both talked about Palmer potentially being on the right, or Parker, you mentioned him being central and a 10. So if we're looking at the attacking forwards, at the numbers, the three forwards, who are you putting out there, with the exception of Nkunku, who's not coming back until December?
Good
Mudryk
question.
on the left. I think all of us agree on that one. For me, it's Raz on the right, and then you either play a false nine with Palmer, or sort of sadly, I would play Nico Jackson. But I think we need a number. I think we need a number 9 badly. So, Ivan Toney.
Think you bet on that game?
Sure do. Sure fucking do.
Sandro Tonali is his bookie.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's tough because like you don't take Raz out right now, but it's also hard to take Cole Palmer out without he's playing. So who do you put on that right? Experience, I obviously with Sterling, but creativity, I think that goes to Cole Palmer. I see Raz as kind of more of, I don't want to call him a one-trick pony, but like his speed is like what he has, right? That's it. Just get around people and then fire something across. When he is on that right side, that's kind of his thing. Mudryk is kind of the combination, the raw combination of Raz and Cole Palmer. So I think you keep him out there. I could go either way with who's on the right. But as far as that number 10, I don't know. Great question. I don't know if I like Cole Palmer. They're like solidified. I want somebody that he can play with up top, whether that's preferably right now, Broya, when he's available. I would like to see more of that.
See, I haven't seen enough out of Broya, and I haven't seen enough out of Jackson at this point. They're both young, they're both inexperienced, and kind of like the goalie position. When you're young and in number 9, like you're super young at that point. You need more experience. It's like trying to get a job out of college, right? you need 10 years experience, but we're looking for somebody for an entry level position. I would say right now our best front three, Mudryk on the left, Palmer on the right, Sterling as a false nine, like what we did against Arsenal. And then you just kind of have those three kind of interchange because they can all play. I mean, outside of Mudryk plays on the left exclusively. But Sterling and Palmer can interchange that number nine as well as the right wing spot. And it gives us just a little bit of, a little bit of throwing question marks at the other team. Hey, who's going to be making that run through the channel? Who's going to be attacking with speed down that right side? Who's going to be putting that ball in? It's a lot of question marks for an opposing team to deal with. So I think at this moment in time, as we head into our shit house of a schedule, unfortunately, I think you got to go with the false nine. So with that being said, Nico Jackson had a great preseason. He's already got a couple goals under his belt for Chelsea. Did not look great in this one. He's had a couple matches where he just did not look great at all. But people are still comparing him to Didier Drogba, which may be unfair. But are too high of expectations being placed on Nico Jackson?
I mean, if you're calling him Drogba, yeah. Yeah, the thing about Nico is we saw what happens when you play with confidence, when you play a little bit looser. And really, unfortunately, I don't want to call it like a Chelsea thing, or I think it's more of a Premier League thing, but it seems like the stakes are so much higher in the Premier League. Every match is, it's a grind. It's not a gimme. There's no gimme people you can play. You can't play at Brentford and just have no pressure on you. It's every match is important. Every match you have the ability to lose. And therefore, you score a goal. It's like, all right, when's the next one? Right. And if it goes 3 games without it, people start asking questions. And if it goes 4 games, now people really start asking questions. And if it goes further than that, like people start to boo you. You can get turned on real quick in the Premier League and Chelsea. I think, we have a rabid, loyal fan base that holds people to really high degrees, and they care about effort, they care about results, they care about wins. At the end of the day, that's about it. So I think in the back of a lot of people's head, they know it's a young squad, that we're not playing our best today, that Nico's 22, I think, 23, something like that. And, he shows signs of figuring stuff out, but he shows his age just as well. So I think his confidence is going to be a big thing to monitor. If he can stay confident and he can start playing fun and playing with some swag, I think that's the better version of Nico that we can see when he feels that pressure. Did I read this? I think I read this. I can't remember, but I think someone like yelled at him, like walking back into the tunnel, where someone yelled at him and said like, "Hey, score goals for us," or something like that. And like abuse from fans, like, it's a tough thing to deal with. It's a tough thing for a kid to deal with. And I don't want to say it's not fair, because it's part of the gig, but it's tough, and it's a lot to ask for a kid to deal with. So I think winning cures everything. Goals fixes everything. And, he needs to kind of get into his zone and start putting the ball in the back of the net. Then good things kind of happen. I think it starts to roll it. So he'll be one of those swaggy flow players that needs to get into a little bit of a flow state.
I feel like he's on the verge of being Senegalese Timo Werner. Tries hard, but just doesn't really have the end product. And I don't want that to be like a knock on him. Like I'm a fan of Timo. I always have been. Just didn't pan out for him at Chelsea, right? He's tearing stuff up in the Bundesliga. That's where he does his work. It's not a bad thing, but he's still a kid. I'm just concerned that he doesn't have the mental strength to hang in the Premier League. And one of the reasons why I say that, we've talked about the immaturity, right? Like 4 of his 5 yellows were because he was bitching to the official and showing him a fake yellow card that should have been presented. Like, I'm hoping that he gets past all of that. But right now, I could see him slipping into that territory. Like, he's going to try hard. He's going to, go after people. But if the end product isn't going to be there, then what? Right. I don't want that for him. I think he is still very raw. And he definitely can't turn it around. Right. Like there's no saying that he can, but I think that it's going to be a tough road physically, mentally to get him to that place. And I just hope that he's able to deal with that.
Yeah. And, like I said, with strikers, it's, you come in young and inexperienced, and Erling Haaland is the exception. Kylian Mbappe is the exception. But because they are the ones who draw the headlines, they're the ones who draw the clicks and the views, that it's kind of what this generation of fan expects with young forwards. Drogba was not great in his first season here. A lot of young strikers were not great in their first season here. Unfortunately, this has been a club where young strikers have not been allowed time to flourish. But you got to remember with Nico Jackson, he's only got 35 top flight first team appearances before this season at Villarreal. He scored 12 goals, and 8 of those, I believe, 8 or 10 of those came since January 1st with Villarreal. And so he's very much fresh. He is a fresh top flight player. Not a lot of experience behind him. So you're going to go through stretches where, he may score 3 goals in 3 games, but then he may not score for 5 or 6 games. And unfortunately, when that's all you're investing in at the number 9 role, that's what you're going to get. Armando Broya is coming back from a terrible, terrible knee injury. And so you don't know what you're going to get there either. Those are our 2 options. Right now, you do not have another one. Now, January, Ivan Toney, as you've mentioned, Parker, could be an option. Victor Osimhen seems to be unhappy at Napoli, but do we splash the cash on him? I don't know. And so it's just kind of like we got to ride with this for now. If we want Nico Jackson to be that guy, if we want him to grow and flourish at Stamford Bridge as a striker, you need to give him those opportunities and let him fail so that he can then grow and become a better player. Now, I still stand by, if I had to pick a lineup right now, he would not be in it. But I think that's part of that learning curve. He's 22, just turned 22 in June. So he is a young man. And this fan base, and we're guilty of this too. Us 3, we are guilty of it too. Of, we came in at a time when Chelsea was very successful. And so this is all we have known in terms of Chelsea. But in the long history of Chelsea, these are the kind of players that we need to grow and develop, and gotta kind of ride or die with, unless we want to drop another 250 million on, strikers at this point. But I think he has all the talent in the world. He makes the right runs. Matt, as you said, the Senegalese, Timo Werner. It's just a matter of, like Parker, what you said, you got to be a little swaggy with it. You got to stick with that confidence and see where it goes. So yeah, it's a tough one, but I think he has all those kind of intangibles that we need to eventually figure it out.
I'm curious, between Victor Osimhen and Ivan Toney, who do you guys pick today?
Is money a factor?
It can wade into it, sure. For market value, whatever. I don't care.
Because I
Who do
just
you
know
think's more successful?
dealing with De Laurentiis at Napoli is a beast and a half. So he may say Osimhen's worth 150, but he may be actually looking for 200 mil, right? Man, I think I would take Osimhen. I like Ivan Toney. I think he's a good, solid Premier League striker, but Osimhen seems to be the real deal. He seems to be able to do it all, and he's done it in Europe, which is at Chelsea, one of the most important things. So I'm splashing the cash. I'm going Osimhen.
Ivan Toney.
Any reason why?
He's Premier League proven. He's kicked our ass plenty of times.
See, that's the only reason why I pick Ivan Toney is because he's proven that he can do it in the Premier League. And I'm sick of signing La Liga and other leagues, the bullshit players that come over that aren't used to pressure and they get their ass handed to them. Like it's happened countless times for Chelsea. It's happened countless times for other big names that come into the Premier League and for whatever reason they just can't hang. They can't produce what they've produced in other leagues. So because of that, I'm taking Ivan Toney. He's cheaper, which helps, and the fact that I know he can do it and stand up to the physicality of what the Premier League brings.
Jeez, I'm just looking at. I don't disagree with you guys on Ivan Toney and his Premier League acumen, but holy cow, Osimhen over the last 3 seasons, 46 goals in La Liga in 67 appearances. Not La Liga, in Serie A. Man. And I know Ram has done something similar, which does not help my argument at all.
Pulisic will be doing the same if you look at his 3 years at AC Milan.
That's a
Timo Werner in the Bundesliga, Kai Havertz in the Bundesliga. Look at their numbers. Their numbers are staggering. Maybe not as prolific, but like they both had fantastic seasons for their respective clubs before they came to Chelsea as well.
This might be a real quick throwaway topic, but what league translates the best to the Premier League? What leagues, stats, goals, assists, whatever, do you look at and you're like, oh, that could translate? Because we've already shit on Serie A, we've shit on La Liga, or not La Liga, in the Bundesliga. Where do you look at players and you're like, oh yeah, that could translate?
The Championship.
I was just about to say that too.
I honestly like it, not 1-to-1, and I don't think there is a 1-to-1 comparison, but like you think of like a Dmitry Mitrovic, someone who tore up the Championship, can come in and score goals in the Premier League. I think he'd be a fantastic Premier League striker this year if he didn't go to Saudi Arabia. Like I think he could be a 20 goal scorer for 5 or 6 teams in the Premier League this year had he not jumped ship. So that's the first league I look at. I mean, recently demoted teams or relegated teams.
And Matt, do you agree?
I agreed. I agreed with the Championship.
But obviously, if you're a Real Madrid striker, a Barcelona striker with big numbers, like proven against the respective other club and proven in Europe, I mean, guys who have scored for those clubs have been worldly phenomenal talents. Now, the chances of us signing them are probably slim to none, but if you could bag one, then sure.
See, I think I'd take somebody from Ligue 1 over somebody from the Championship. At least at Chelsea, not every club seems to be able to sign decent French league talent, but Chelsea's scouting team in France seems to be superb. So I would trust anyone we signed out of there. And, looking at the top scorers there last year, Lacazette scored plenty for Arsenal. He was the leading scorer. Kylian Mbappe could score for anyone, right? Jonathan David from Lille in Canada, I think would be a great Premier League striker. Balogun, I think the book's out on him, but Ben Yedder, Wahi, Moffi, like all of those players, I think would fit in well in a Premier League club, specifically a club like Chelsea. So I don't disagree with the Championship, but if I'm looking for an out and out goal scorer or playmaker or whatever, I think I would go to France to pick somebody out there.
Olivier Giroud, baby.
I forgot to mention Lionel Messi on that list. Sorry, but no Cristiano Ronaldo, Matt. I'm sorry.
Fine with me.
So speaking of the French, Axel Disasi was our right wing back, or our right back in this one, with Malo Gusto apparently picking up a knock with or over the international break. Reece James not fully fit at this moment in time. We've seen Axel Disasi as a right back in emergency situations already this season, but primarily as a center back. Was this kind of a blown call by Pochettino, or is Disasi kind of to blame for this one?
Start us off, Collins. What do you think?
I don't blame Disasi at all. I think he's an out and out center back who can play. He's got okay distribution. I think he can put a ball in when necessary. Not necessarily the best ball, but he can put a serviceable one in. But Disasi's an out and out center back. I don't know why when Gusto wasn't fully fit, James isn't fully fit, why you couldn't just give each of them 45 minutes, or even Gusto, who picked up a slight knock, give him 50 minutes, and James 40, 60-30, goes on and on and on and on, right? I don't know why you couldn't do that. Disasi, for being serviceable as a right back, does not occupy a defender in attack, especially in a team that throws a low block at us like Brentford. He does not occupy a defender that then frees up Noni Madueke on that right side to attack. Noni was double teamed for the majority of the game and couldn't really get into it. So I don't so much put that on Disasi. Defensively, he was fine. Offensively, he was exactly what I expect out of Disasi. So that one I kind of put on Poach, but again, I'm not in those training sessions. I'm not with the medical team. I don't know necessarily how far Gusto was allowed to go. I know Reece James is allowed 20 to 30 minutes at the moment. So it seems like you could play both, to me, from the outside looking in.
I'm curious as to, so to kind of help supplement that, why you couldn't put like an Ian Maatsen out there. We've talked about him as like a Swiss Army knife. Why not? Or if Maatsen is more preferred on his left side, put Cucurella at right back. We saw that he can at least hang on the right side, and then have
Colwell go on the left.
Have Maatsen play on the left, and then you have Colwell back there too. So it wouldn't be. I don't think it would have been a bad idea. But I think there were options available. I just don't know if Maatsen, like if my scenario of Maatsen would have been the best one. Maybe we just said, all right, we're going to kind of sacrifice the right a little bit, throw Disasi out there and at least be somewhat sound from that standpoint. But yeah, hard to know what was going on in those medical meetings.
So, but Parker, but before we get to you, this just triggered my memory of the pre-pod talk we had. And Matt, your talk of how we could have possibly lined up otherwise sparked this. So thank you. But yeah, why not throw Cucurella on the right like we have in other games? Why not throw a Colwell or a Maatsen on the left and throw Disasi into the middle with Thiago Silva? The rumors that I have seen and heard is that Chelsea were trying to play for or trying to play against Brentford's set piece strengths. They're a team that'll body you on set pieces. And so throwing Disasi on the right as basically a third center back kind of counters that. Parker, to me, that seems like a loser mentality. What do you think?
I completely agree. I mean, I think Chelsea need to line up with their best 11 and then let other teams deal with that, right? I mean, I think it is a loser mentality. I don't think that you completely operate in a bubble. You still try to figure out what teams are going to do against you and try to plan for it. But this works into my point, which I was hoping neither of you said, but we did mention it. But those 4 back players have lined up in a lineup for us this year. It was against Fulham. And it was Cucurella on the right, Disasi and Silva in the center, and Levi Colwell on the left. Why the fuck wouldn't we do that again? It worked out great. Levi Colwell was our man of the match. We scored 2 goals. Everything went very, very well in that match. I don't know why we would mess with that. Why would you stick Axel Disasi out on the right when Cucurella can do that? He has proven to do it pretty damn well. And Levi Colwell has proven to be on the left. And I don't buy that this set piece mentality thing, because in a set piece, you can line up however you want. In a set piece, you can stack those 4, you can shift them wherever you want to figure it out. It's like, deal with that when set pieces happen, sure, and then line up how you want to, in open play. So I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. We've had a way that these 4 have played together and they played well together. So this to me was a miss. I do always think in the back of my mind, Collins, I don't see training sessions. I'm not in those meetings. I'm there. These are 11 plus, the bench full of people, full of personalities, full of egos, full of people coming to them saying, this is what I want. This is how I see my role. Coach coming back to him saying, this is how I see your role. There's tons of things that happen in this. There's tons of moving pieces. And if we would have won, we wouldn't have been talking about this. We would have been talking about how great it worked out, right? If we won 3-0 and no goals are conceded, we would have been like, hey, this gives us another option, right? We would have reacted to it totally differently, but we didn't. And so we're not. And it's a tough one. I think what must be said is the only thing that makes sense to me is Levi doesn't like playing on the left wing or as a left back, excuse me. And he wants to be a center back and he thinks of himself as a center back, and he's kind of getting preferential treatment. That's the only thing that I can think of that makes sense to me, is that kind of communication from him to Poch, and then kind of getting his way for it, because he's been pretty great this year. Otherwise, I don't really see it, but this is complete speculation on my point. I don't have inside ears telling me what's going on at those training sessions, even though I wish I did. But the miss, I think it was a miss. Don't know if it cost us the game or not, but it was a miss.
See, and talking about preferential treatment, I look at that back 4, and 2 thoughts ran through my head at 5:30 in the morning. And one was, Enzo's gone, so we got to compensate. And instead of having another number 6, we got to have another center back. But then, kind of branching off what you just said with preferential treatment, the other thought that ran into my mind, kind of, one of those, angel and devil on the shoulders kind of thought. This was the devil coming at me. Thiago Silva, preferential treatment. You got Disasi back. You got Colwell playing well. But you need to fit Thiago Silva into that lineup. Now, Thiago Silva has not been exceptional this year. He's been good, has not been, and he's what, 38, 39. So it's not to be expected that he's going to be elite every single match. But at the same time, we've seen him responsible for a couple goals this year. But it creeped into the back of my mind of, oh, this is just so that we can have Thiago Silva play as a center back.
I don't think that's the case, but that's fine. I think none of those guys right now are able to lead that back line. because they're so young. I think you still need that veteran presence out there. Collins, you're shaking your head. That's fine. I still think you need some sort of a veteran out there to help kind of keep things intact.
Collins, how would you have lined him up with no Silva in that lineup?
Colwell on the left. No, I'm sorry. Kukure on the left. Disasi and Colwell in the center. And then Gusto and James would have been my interchange. Swap it half for, whatever you need at that point. You can even do a double substitution on that right wing back and throw whoever the fuck you want back there for the last 10 minutes of the game at that point. But somebody. So that would have been my back four. But I'd, just preferentially.
So real quick, one other thing that I want to call out is when Enzo was not in the game, or when Enzo was playing more of an attack, Thiago Silva is the facilitator. I don't know if anybody else has kind of caught on to this, but Thiago Silva is the facilitator back there. If Enzo, again, if he's out wide, if he's up top, whatever, he's usually not going to Caicedo. Like, he is the one that sees everything, and he's making those long ball passes and things like that. So Silva is, a quasi facilitator back there as well. So I think that makes it difficult in that situation when you don't have Enzo at all. Like, who else is going to be that player?
Axel Disasi.
Like I said, you don't have an answer. So I think that's why you need him out there.
Okay. All right. I don't want to, we're running up against time here. I don't want to battle you. This will be a battle for international break or something, but
sounds good.
No. All right. So, looking at the table now, God, we are top of the bottom half. Is that right? I haven't looked at the table as of today, but we're down there again. I think now, realistically, looking into the table, we are probably that 8 to 12 range for the rest of the year, barring any kind of flub from someone else, or us going on a hot streak, something like that. And I know that seems to change on this pod every week, but I think realistically, at least for me, that's probably where we're slotting in. So what is the importance of the Carabao Cup now that we're seemingly make a run and we've got Blackburn coming up?
I think we treat it like we treat this season. I don't think this season will be viewed as a failure if we look back on it, and it's the learning season that helped kind of propel a run of some pretty great teams. So I think we treat it like we treat everything else, which is it's a learning experience. It's a chance for players to play in big games. When you play a team from a lower division, it's their Super Bowl, it's their big match, and so you get good crowds, you get rabid fans, and you get good atmosphere. So it's nights like that help Nico Jackson build confidence. It's nights like that help excuse the poor analogies, but turns boys into men, right? It's like nights like that you learn a lot about what you're made out of. And for this team to gel, for this team to kind of rally behind a cause, it's something that they can push forward to. I think it's pretty important, but not critical. It's a chance for you to build something great and try to make a run at something.
I mean, every match is an opportunity to start somewhere, right? Like we've been saying that throughout this whole season. Like, it wasn't a great start to the season, but something's got to change. We started to see that, went on that win streak. All right, we got punched in the mouth. How do we respond? Doesn't matter if we're playing a non-league team, doesn't matter if we're playing City. Like, how do you respond? And I think that's going to be the big thing that we find out throughout the course of the season, and especially in the next, month and a half, 2 months of matches that we have coming up.
I think the Carabao Cup is honestly our best chance at European football for next year. What does the winner of the Carabao Cup get? Is it qualifying round of the Europa League? It's
sure.
something like that, or direct into the Conference League. I don't know, something like that. But you look at who's in the round of 16 left in the Carabao Cup. It's Mansfield against Port Vale. Cool. That regardless who comes out of that, that's someone Chelsea can beat. Ipswich against Fulham. I think that's another one that Chelsea can beat regardless of who comes out. Manchester United against Newcastle. One of those two teams is going out, which is great. Bournemouth against Liverpool, I think could be a coin toss, knowing how Jurgen Klopp hates cup competitions. Us against Blackburn, West Ham against Arsenal, London derby, that could go either way. And then Everton Burnley. With that one, right? I think this is a real chance for Chelsea to get back into European competition for next year, and a better chance than in the league. So I think Carabao Cup has to be kind of an all-in for us at this time.
You earn a playoff round of the Europa Conference League.
Playoff of the Conference League. Oof.
The winner of the Carabao Cup earn a place in the playoff round of the Europa Conference League.
So it at least guarantees you Europe, which is something a club like Chelsea need. I would say, especially with the way we recruit, I would say we need something to back up what we're offering.
Yep, and it's a push in the right direction, right? It's no Europe this year, some Europe next year, then hopefully we obviously build and get back into the Champions League and do big things, right? It's not good enough, but it's something.
And I would argue this year the Champions League misses Chelsea. The Champions League this year has not been great. There's a lot of shitty teams in here, and my favorite thing comes from the Women's Champions League, where Manchester United got eliminated in the playoff round, and the coach comes out and says, "Oh, wow, why do we have to play PSG in the playoff? Like, we're a big club. We should be automatically guaranteed. Like, this is your first time in Europe. Like, you need to sit down." But that's just how the Men's Champions League also comes off as to me. It's like, who are these teams? Who are you? Like, why? This year needs Chelsea. It needs a Liverpool. Enough of this Newcastle and all these shitty Eastern European clubs. But that's just me.
Good to see the diversity.
I don't have anything positive to say off of that. All right. We did not have a man of the match poll. I put up there for a man of the match that no one wins it because they were all shitty. But if you had to pick a man of the match against Brentford, who would you go with?
Gallagher. But I'm kind of just drawing straws here. Best of the worst.
For me, I would say either Cole Palmer or Raz. I'll go with Palmer.
Yeah, I like Palmer. Gallagher was okay. I'm going to go Bobby Sanchez. He kept us in that game. The second goal was not his fault. And I give credit to him for sprinting all the way back to at least try to make a play on that second one. We were not going to win the match regardless, but no, he was the only one who didn't extremely fuck up in this one. So who is your man to get the fuck out of here besides the entire team?
Did you put up a poll for this?
Nope. I was so mad.
Curious what your options were, if you had them.
Thomas Frank is one of them. I hate him.
I'm gonna just say you guys know this about me, I usually don't blame refereeing. I thought the missed penalty on Raz was at least worth a VAR check. I think that VAR didn't deem it a clear and or whatever the fuck they say, the obvious error, but I think that could have really been checked and looked into. And I don't know, I've seen penalties like that given a lot this year and other years. So to me, it was no different. The arm was extended in the box and Raheem Sterling's back. So seemed like a pretty blatant shove to me, but I'm not blaming the ref for the loss, but I think obviously a penalty changes that game in a big way. So it's me looking back and saying, who do I blame for that? Both refereeing.
For me, it's Neil Maupay. I just can't fucking stand that guy. So, and I love that the fact that he actually got a yellow for just being a dumbass.
Yeah, no, his yellow card was fantastic. He was a close runner up for me, but Parker, I'm with you. Simon Hooper was terrible all match. I'm excited to. I know we don't get to see the PGMOL show here in America, the show where they go over all the VAR decisions and VAR communications during the week. But we at least get the highlights on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. So I'm excited to hear why a penalty was not given in this one, because I think it's going to be an absolute shit show. These refs are just going to get roasted all year. And I don't think anything's going to change because of it, but I'm curious to see what happens. Because if we had somebody like Jurgen Klopp on our touchline, God, we would have no one reffing our games because everyone is biased against Chelsea.
Everyone's made a mistake.
Yes. But yeah, he's my man to get the fuck out of here. All right. Well, when we do not play like shit, I do post the polls, man of the match and man to get the fuck out of here. Check them out on X after the game. We've got a couple games coming up this week, so make sure to check those out. Boys, any closing thoughts here?
Nope.
My closing thought is how I almost opened up the show, which is this feels like a funeral after a loss, right? It feels like it's good to see you guys, but wish it was on better terms, right? Like that's how the vibe of this feels, and I hate that. So I'm hoping for a Carabao Cup win, so we can come and at least cheers to something positive next week.
I like it. I like it. All right. Well, like I said, make sure to check us out on social media. You can follow us on X, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, all that good stuff. Just search at Flag Down Pod. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review. We do post Q&As, polls, stuff like that on Spotify. Make sure to respond to those as well as giving us a 5-star rating. We really appreciate those. But boys, until next week, cheers.
Cheers.
Later, boys.